joining. We are reading No BS Time Management for Entrepreneurs. Chapter 9, Fire Yourself, Replace Yourself, Make More Money, and Have More Fun. So kind of the same question, really. How does this feel to you guys? And are any of you doing this in any of your business world or your personal world? Like, we had this happen in my household one time. I used to beg my husband, let's hire somebody to do XYZ because they're faster, they're better at it. And then he would tell me, no, we can save $1,500. Well, of course, someone else came into the house and was like, why are you doing that? Like, do you realize if you take that time and pay the $400 for the person to paint the garage and take the 4 hours that it would cost you or take you to paint the garage and go market, like you could more than quadruple the 400 that you're spending. It was like a light bulb went off, and we don't do anything around our house anymore. And it's fabulous in so many ways. So what does that look like for you guys in your lives and in your businesses?
So in my business, I love it. It's funny because I started this as like a teenager, I guess. My dad would make me cut the yard. And I was just always like, honestly, like I could just spend that time, like, working on something different. And so I just ended up always hiring somebody to do it. My mom got mad, but my dad never cared, but it was like, honestly, that was kind of the first time I found out, okay, well, sure, yeah, I can pay him like this amount, but then I can actually go to work early or go to work on time or whatever, spend a little bit more time there, and then make that money back. So I've been using it since then, but I probably should use it more, honestly.
Gotcha. Steve, what about you?
I mean, for me, it's so funny because the old team I used to be on, they used to bust my chops for being a for sale by owner on everything. Like I would do like my own oil changes. I'd mow my own lawn. I'd put out the stuff in the yard, like spray, and spray for bugs. I do everything. Look on YouTube to fix stuff, and I still do that a little bit. But now I'm at the point where it's like time is money. Like time is like the ultimate currency, especially when you have 6 kids. It's like there's no time. So if there's something, and I keep trying to tell my wife, there are things that we need to do. So we're trying to come up with ideas for what can we do to where we can either hire out help, or like my number 5 kid, John Charles, he's like a fireball. He's a complete fireball, and he just destroys everything he touches. And we have a friend of ours that said, I'll take him for 3 hours a week. We'll pay him, pay me like $20 an hour. I'll take him. He's gone for 3 hours a week. And that's like the best 3 hours a week for my wife, because she can get so much done during that when he's not here. So it's trying to figure out anytime you can trade time for money or money for time, and in my old age, I have now turned over the lawn cutting to my son. I have somebody else spray for bugs. I have all that. So because there's just no time, whether it's work or family, it's like, there's just no time.
Alicia?
I love it. I'm excited. We have a pool at this house, and unlike our Florida house, it does not have the mosquito cage. So it's not screened in. And I spend so many hours scooping the pool, even though I also have children. I've spent hours and hours out there. And so I am very excited to get to a point to hire a pool boy. And my husband was doing the yard, and the self-propel thing is not working right now. And I'm like, when are you ready for a landscaper? And he's like, oh, I don't think I could ever do it. And I'm like, nope. When you're not here and we have the money, like I'm just going to hire it out, and we're not going to live like that anymore. So I'm the same. I'm on YouTube. I'm fixing things. I'm always looking for ways for us to save money, but this has shed a whole new light on my time is infinitely more valuable than even these specialized services that we all need. And so I'm so ready.
Well, and I think it makes your life more enjoyable, right? I'll never forget the first time we had a housekeeper come in the house. Like, they cleaned my house better in half the time than what I could have ever done it. And it was like, whoa. And all that time we got back. Now, we didn't use that Saturday for business, but we used it for our kids, which allowed us then to use Monday through Friday for more business, because we as parents didn't feel guilty that we were missing a baseball game or missing a lacrosse game or whatever. Something else he kind of points out when he's talking about this is like self-analysis and understanding. You should give up everything that you're not good at or that you don't enjoy. There are tasks that I can outperform most people at doing, but I don't enjoy doing them. And so I've learned how to kind of let the hand go and let it open and realize that in 10 years, if they did this job and it was just as effective as what I was going to do, how they did it doesn't matter. And that's kind of been my measurement of, can I let this go? If what is happening or what is going on or how somebody's doing XYZ, if in 10 years it's not going to make a negative impact on my life, I let it go. I let them do their job.
I saw Dan Beer on a podcast recently, or like a video thing on YouTube, and he was talking about open house signs. He's like, I can kick butt putting out open house signs and know exactly where they need to go, exactly how they need to face, the exact whatever. It's like, it's a freaking sign. Yeah. Pay somebody, $20 an hour, $15 an hour, whatever, to go put your signs out. Yes, you can do it better. It's a sign. You have better things to do with your time, and this is just, this year I've gotten a lot better about, with buyers. If I don't have the time, I get a showing assistant, or I get somebody to go open the door. That's the best $50 I spend, bar none. Because to drive an hour somewhere, to show the house for a half hour, to drive, it's like, I'll take for $50. I'll take those 3 hours.
Absolutely. And what about delegating? He talks a lot about delegating in this chapter and how to figure out what to delegate out. He talks a little bit about, don't recreate the wheel. Delegating is hard. It's hard to kind of give that up. How would that look in your businesses if you guys did that at a higher level? It sounds like everybody's doing it at some level. Do you think in 2023 you can kick that up a notch and make a difference in your current business?
Well, absolutely.
What would that look like for you guys?
Well, for me, I'll let you go first. I just talked, David.
So I would say in my business, that would allow me to do like more things that I actually specialize in, because essentially right now, whatever I haven't passed off, I'm either documenting to pass off, and essentially, once you document it and pass it off, you kind of, wipe your hands off of it and monitor it on a regular basis. But then at that point, now that opens up so much more time. I'm just in a review phase as opposed to just going in and doing the detailed work. And that allows me to do more specialized activities that we can charge more.
For me,
I've already started.
You got it.
As soon as I left Redfin, I got to EXP, and Laura was like, you need to be doing this, way too many things I could ever do in one day. I came home and I said, like, hey, I said to my husband, I'm like, I want to farm our little piece of this street, and I don't want to be searching. I don't want to go on the tax records. My time is more valuable than that. So since you're semi-retired, you're going to do that for me. And he was like, oh, okay, great. I love it. I love how you're like very strict about your stuff. I love it. Like just this morning, I was trying to defend a little appointment I had already set. He's like, yeah, I'll go to this other thing. I love it. I love that you're like trying to carve out your time and keep it sacred. And I'm like, thank you. Yeah, go have fun. So I'm already delegating. Like I'm working on my logo, and I have a really hard time letting go of creative control of stuff like that. But it's been maybe a month of like trying to figure out what I want and would I trust someone to make what's in here. And
remind me off the phone to give you a good company that'll cost you $40 and you'll get about 500 choices and you'll be very happy you did.
Okay, well, I paid yesterday, but I'm excited about it. But I delegated my logo, and like I'm delegating pulling in contacts and stuff like that. So I'm I love it. I like that idea.
Steve, your turn.
Well, for me, like we talked about, I've got somebody who's helping me right now do just a few things here and there. It's only very part-time, but it's gotten me to thinking that there's so much more to offboard now. Because like, for example, she was out of town for a couple of weeks in November. So I had to take over all the stuff that she was doing. And it's like, oh, this sucks. I gave this away to somebody. Now I have to do all this stuff. That's not good. So it made me really think, again, if I could have all that time to just do, and the cool thing about this chapter was he answered like the $1 million question of if everything you had during the day was done, like everything was taken care of and whatever, and you had time, should you spend your time doing? And it's marketing. And he just talked about the importance of that and whatever. So that's what got me to thinking, yeah, if I can get all this other stuff to be taken care of, could we make all that money back by building a better machine? It's like, absolutely. Not even close, you know? So my goal for next year is to get somebody a little more full-time, if not full-time.
I love that. That's a super fun goal. Now, are you going to try to keep the same person, or would you have to hire somebody else?
I had to hire somebody else because she's not going to be able to do full-time. She's
Gotcha.
very organized. She's very awesome, but she also is split into 500 different things. So, which is what she wants to do. So,
gotcha. Well, very cool. Something he points out that I thought was kind of interesting or noteworthy, we'll say, is that delegation doesn't mean giving up control either, right? So like when you delegate, it's okay to go through his steps to define what has to be done, to delegate your desire on how it should be done. But he also says to tell them why it should be done that way, right? If you're very passionate about, if you're painting and you want every stroke to be up and down, at least explain that to the person. I think a lot of times we find that when we do delegate job tasks, if you give somebody parameters and they think they're dumb, it's hard for them to stay within those parameters. But if you give them a reason, sometimes it's a little bit easier. What I tell my employees is you have 20% freedom in my company. I'm going to delegate your job at 80%. 20% of that time, I want you figuring out how to do your job better than I can. And what they come up with is amazing. And I stole that from Google. So that's actually Google's business model. They pay their employees 20% of their time to be creative in any aspect that they want to be. And that's where, like, how Google changes its little logo every once in a while?
Right.
That's where that came from. Gmail.
The Google Doodle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is what it's called.
It is. You are correct. I didn't know y'all would know that term, but
we're doodling like crazy over here, right?
That's where that came from. Gmail, same thing. I mean, it wasn't a mind-blowing idea, but somebody said, hey, Yahoo's doing this. We're better than Yahoo. Let's do it at Gmail. And so I think that if you do have a way you want it to be done, that's a good piece of advice, was why it should be done that way. Define success, set the deadline for the completion. I'm really bad at that, right? In my head, I want stuff done, but I never actually have like a completion date. And I know in a few chapters before, he was talking about how those deadlines make you get to your end product, right? Follow up. So those were kind of his steps to go through. So for me, that made delegating not as scary, right? It kind of gave me permission to say, okay, I'm going to delegate, but you're going to do it my way, which I think is nice. And then when you delegate, you replace yourself. I love replacing myself. I wish I could replace myself as a mom, as lots of other different titles sometimes. Taxi cab driver. And I think that, he goes on to say in that chapter that when you start to delegate, you start actually enjoying your success. Do y'all find that is true in your lives and in your businesses?
To me, it is, because not only are you like getting more time and giving yourself more freedom, but it's also like, we don't want to be in the trenches for the rest of our lives. We want to build a business. Like, it's not a business if you're the only person carrying the water. You know what I mean? It's like, I want to build and then pour into somebody, mm-hmm. and have them help to carry, and then pour into somebody else. And, and then all of a sudden it's a whole group. And it's like, then like you've built something, you've built a business. It's not just a solo agent running around with their head cut off. And, you know, it's like, to me, that's my thing, is like, I want to build something.
Absolutely. Now something I found kind of interesting, and we'll wrap this chapter up. Don't make people fetch for you. How often is realtors, right? Like, at least you haven't written contracts yet, or at least not a lot of them. You're going to realize that there are a lot of agents out there that require you to do both sides of that transaction. And I am now on a mission. Brooke Woolley, again, and I sent her a message, just so you know. I told her we talk about her on book club all the time. She should start watching or join, one of the two. But again, she's a master at this, right? Like Brooke, people will put on their listings all the time, don't send me this in Remind. Guess where she sends it from? Remind. Because when she sends it from Remind, they can edit it, they can download it as a PDF. Anything they need to do, they can do. And it amazes me. I've seen her text conversations, how stupid some people are. They're like, this is not a PDF. You need to send it in something that I can download. And literally right there at the top, it says download. like right there. And so she's just a master at this. But figuring out a way to stop having to fetch all the data and do both sides of the transaction is going to be very high on my priority list for 2023. And it may start with commissions to buyer's agents. Like, I might just start lowering their commission somehow. I don't know how yet, but.
And the prior remarks say you'll get 1% if you're a pain in the ass.
Exactly. Like, if you don't send a completed contract, broker commission is 2.5%. I don't want to go search your contract down. Or if you send me a completed contract, you'll get 3.25%. Pay them for doing their job. I don't know, but I thought that was a very interesting little tidbit. All right. Anything else on chapter 9?
No, it was a cool chapter, because it talks about, like, now you're getting kind of meat and potatoes. The whole book is, replacing yourself, getting the heck out of the way, and why do we do it, and things like that. So I like that chapter. It was good. Of the 4 that we have to do, this was the best one.
I agree. Chapter 10 was kind of short and sweet. There wasn't a ton for me in there. There wasn't a lot of meat in there. But the link between productivity and association, and the first thing that they kind of talk about is don't give out your confidence and get rid of toxic people. So what would that look like in your lives and your business? How does that kind of resonate with you guys as far as cleaning up your work environment and your workspace? You're delegating your time, you've cleaned up that. What would it look like to get rid of those toxic people, those naysayers, the people that kind of don't want to do things your way if you're the boss?
I mean, to me, I think it always comes down to the analogy of, if you're building a business, kind of your job as a leader is to be sure everybody's sitting in the right seats on the bus and everybody's rowing in the same direction. Because if everybody's in the wrong seat and they're rowing in a different direction, we're not going anywhere. So that's part of it, because I've seen that on the team that I was on, when we hired the wrong people. And it within 3 minutes. It's like, oh my goodness, why did we hire you? I mean, it's a drag. It's a drag on everybody. And it's like, and they're not even doing anything. And they just drag the whole thing down because they're just not rowing in the right direction. And the machine's not working.
Right.
Because if you've got 3 people sitting in the right spots, rowing in the right direction, they will beat the living hell out of a 10-man team that doesn't know what they're doing.
Yeah, so I would say, as far as like in personal life, like the friends and whatnot that you have around you, they're gonna obviously have a lot of impact on where your time goes. I feel like every so years, I feel like I kind of go through almost like a shed, in a sense, where you kind of, certain friends just get kind of left behind. you know. And then for, I would say in my professional life, essentially it's the same thing. Like I can think of an example. I hired a bookkeeper to help me with my practice. And, you know, here I thought I was saving some time. And then by the time I went back to check her work, I mean, it was so bad. It was not only did she spend time on it, I now had to spend time undoing what she did and then fixing it. You know, and it was just, you know, now I have an assistant that's not even really a bookkeeper and probably does a better job. You know, but just understanding like, you know, this isn't going to work. Because I mean, I could have tried to work with her and say, no, you don't do it this way, we do it this way. But I think, you know, sometimes you just gotta, you know, go ahead and cut it off.
I took that a little more like, not so much avoiding the negative, which I do like the plague, but more of like, it reminded me when I left Redfin and came to EXP, like I started to reach out to my friend more. We worked at another job together and we both just kind of ended up in real estate separately. And so when I got to EXP, I reached out to her and I was like super excited to like build this like scrappy, hungry, awesome thing with her, even from afar. And so like it reminded me like that's what I'm looking for, not necessarily to avoid the negative because I do that, but to build up people around me who are hungry or who have ideas or who can say like, oh my gosh, I just read about that. Here it is. So that's like, it reminded me that's what I'm looking for. Not necessarily to work on a team either, but just to have that group of people who are like, you know, celebrating. Yeah, you made an appointment and like nothing happened, but you did it. And like, just like a work family in a way of like more celebratory and less negative. But I felt like that really struck something in me too.
Right. Well, that was like a perfect segment into the last little part of chapter 10, which was all about masterminding, right? So, and that's kind of where he goes, is get the negative out, get the positive in. And bringing the positive in, what does that look like? Well, how do you mastermind? Well, first off, to your point, you organize people with similar interests, likes, or ideas in that area, right? So you went to your friend, you said, hey, friend, we're both in the same season of life. Let's do it together. And I had almost a very similar conversation with another agent last night. I'm not looking to join a team. I'm not looking to be one big, unit under one umbrella, but to have us all in the same room doing the same job, masterminding, right? Having a strong leader in that group. I think, right now we've got Modern Agent and Modern Agent is floundering. Right. And why is it floundering? And Stacy, if you watch this, I apologize. It's because we don't have a strong leader. We don't have someone standing in front of us right now who's willing to organize and actually lead. He has the desire. He has the want for us to mastermind, but for whatever reason, his bandwidth is just not there. And that kind of was what that entire conversation was about. And so I think that having that, now he used mastermind a little different than I've always heard it used. So to me, a mastermind is where you get like-minded people together and you talk about ideas. He kind of used it almost as, in my opinion, as how he hired his coaches. Like who he masterminded with were the people, or his examples were people that were smarter than you in doing certain things and hiring people to teach you how to do that. It's a little different than how I'm used to seeing it done, or seeing it be used. But I think kind of when you take away the fat, the meat's still the same. What does that feel like to you guys, or how does that resonate with you guys?
I think it's so with the mastermind thing, like for the fast forward thing that we do. I mean, that's the ultimate one where, everybody's, it's in the same, the same people are looking to do the same things. We're all trying to grow, things like that. And to your credit, to piggyback on what you were saying earlier, Fast Forward is very dialed in. There's definitely a path that they're trying to forge forward and things like that. But I'm kind of peeking ahead at chapter 11 and what we were talking about buying expertise, about buying time, or buying time by buying expertise. And one of the tests, and when we get to it, talking about, has the expert actually done the thing he's advising you about? How many coaches can you hire in real estate that haven't sold a house in 15 years? And I tell you, this is how you do it. No, this is how you did it back in 1983. This is not how we do it in the shift of 2022, Right. So to me, that's, and it's powerful because like you don't have that, in many other spots in real estate.
Correct. Well, I think, and we'll kind of move on to chapter 11. He talks about having a coach for everything. I think it's funny when our kids are little, we hire them a lacrosse coach. We hire them a skateboard coach. We hire them, private lessons if they want to get better at their guitars. And I think it's funny because we are all taught, or at least my experience has been growing up and also being a parent, that if you want to get better at something, you practice and you hire someone to teach you. And I feel like as soon as we graduate college, we're like, well, damn it, we know it all. We don't need no more coach. Right. And I think that, another thing he talks about is what does a coach cost and what is their experience? Because he looks at, there was a few points, right? Have they done it, to Steve's point? Is the expert current? Have they done it today or was it a long time ago? Do they have satisfied clients? How often do we hire somebody in this industry? And Alicia, you haven't been privy to this, but you probably will get there as you start going to more events. We are dangled with all these shiny objects in front of us all the time. And like when I was at KW, you used to hear hire a MAPS coach, hire a MAPS coach, hire a MAPS coach, hire a MAPS coach. Well, I hired a MAPS coach and she sucked. But I never talked to anyone before I actually hired that coach. I just jumped and hired the coach because KW was pushing hire KW coaches. Like, how stupid of me was that? Like totally. And then understand what that person is doing and how they are doing it. So that was kind of his advice there. Have you guys hired any coaches? Are you interested in hiring coaches? How do you think that would change your trajectory of your business?
I've never hired a coach. I've been interested in it. I kind of like this chapter because it kind of gives you almost like a blueprint of how to go about hiring a coach. Mm-hmm. So I guess it just kind of piques my interest more. But I've been interested in it actually more recently than anything.
I have coaching. I've part of my deal. I get it. I pay when we close. So I like it. I wish I had more time with you, but we'll figure all that out.
Yeah, well, coaching just gets you to the next level, right? Somebody explained it really simple to me. Pretend you're walking in the snow. Is it easier to create the footprints or follow someone who's made footprints? Right? You just walk behind your coach in the snow until you catch up to them, and then you bypass them and keep walking.
Yep. And for me, my goal is to get a coach to help me to build the team versus necessarily, and obviously we still need help finding deals and things like that, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, if I'm going to get to where I want to be, I need an army behind me, so that's what I need help with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that was kind of all I had on notes in chapter 11, and we're at about 5.5 minutes left to go. So we'll hop on to chapter 12. Cybernetics equals clearing the calculator. How many of us actually do that? Like, clear one problem before you start on the next one. It is not this person.
Every day, piece of cake, no worries. Happens all the time. I will tell you the one thing I do for it. You got it.
I use an app for it. It's called Headspace. And the company I work for, actually, they kind of push it, which is where I kind of learned it. But it's actually got a couple of things in there, but it's just got like little breathing exercises and that kind of stuff. And every now and then, like, I'll just pull it out, after kind of finishing up like a complex, like, audit scenario or whatever. And then you really do kind of need like that second to kind of bring your mind back and say, okay, I'm switching to something completely different. Let's get that mindset out. The way he kind of put it in the book was brilliant, kind of clearing the calculator. I'd have never thought of it that way. So for me, my goal is really to kind of, I guess, dive into that a little more, because sometimes I'll kind of find myself not clearing the calculator and things will kind of all just, kind of clump together. I'll be talking with someone and, almost talking about a completely different project, which is not good, but if you sit down and clear that calculator every time, you don't really run into that issue.
Steve, you were talking.
Yeah, but it's me. My thing, so before I go and start making phone calls in the morning, I turn on the music and I have my song. And right now it's AC/DC's Shook Me All Night Long. And I hit the play button and I hit the crank button. And as soon as I hear that song, like there's something in your brain that says it's time, and I wish I had that in all aspects. I wish there was like a song for, all right, you're done with work. Now it's time to go wrestle your children, or now it's time, you know what I mean? All this other stuff. But that's the one thing that, I have that switch of, because you have in the morning, we're trying to get, do some emails real quick, whatever, right before making phone calls. But man, when 8:45 hits, it's go time, and it's AC/DC time. And what was the other thing that I just saw in here? Oh, crapola. Alicia, why don't you go and let me figure out what it was I was going to say.
I like how he described it, or someone else described him as like putting something in a box and putting it on the shelf and only going back to that box either when he wanted to or when it was time to. I like that visualization because it is hard to separate, right? Work, kids, like it all just happens to intertwine. And so the idea of, putting down my branding and then focusing on calls, or putting calls away and then focusing on, I feel like right now I'm swimming in all of that. And so I like that mental thing of put it in a box, put it away, and then when it's time, be all in.
He talked about this organization, or clutter versus a clean desk.
Yes, the chaos, right, in your life. That was my next point. So go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You tell me, because I just talked.
Well, I just found that part, kind of interesting, because you're organizing everything, and he tells you to clear your calculator, but in the very next moment, he also says, kind of just get started. Your desk doesn't have to be a nice, neat, organized, nothing on it desk. It can be chaotic, but make sure that when each project has that chaos, there is some organization to what that looks like. Instead of papers everywhere, have piles of papers that represent different things. Okay, these are my buyers, these are my sellers, these, whatever. And I just thought it felt nice to know that it was okay to get started before you were totally organized, and that a little chaos was okay to live in, because I think a lot of times I work to work. I work to get ready to work.
Yeah.
So I actually implemented the, organizing in piles, because I always find my desk kind of super cluttered. Contracts, invoices, receipts, like it's all over the place. And so actually my fiance got me like a couple of different folders, probably secretly, because she was tired of seeing my desk. Oh,
I'm just keeping us on.
But it has significantly helped, though. So it's like it's
okay. Fantastic. You're done, Alicia. Go. 10 seconds.
I like it. I'm a highly organized person, but my desk is manageably messy. So I like that he said that the chaos is good at whatever is tolerable for you. So that made me feel better. That
Yay, book, like it. All right, let's finish it up for next week, right?
Awesome. So we'll finish the book this week, chapters, I think, 13 through 15, maybe.
Yep.
Sweet.
Perfect.
Later. Bye.